There's the ones that we did.
Yeah, so I should have them for the time of insurance meeting.
Joe, you didn't get anything claiming to be a protest petition, did you?
Yeah. Hey, Timmy.
Did you, I saw your letter a while ago. Did you transmit documents to him? That's just a
Went down pretty good.
I'm asking for more.
Right.
And he's already answered it. You know what he says in his answer? I only want this, this, and this. And it is ridiculous. He said Exactly. And he says, well, when I went and filled it out, I was told that that was a good enough. But it's not. Yeah. We're going to be questioned about who got noticed about the zone change. They're going to say 3 people that were supposed to didn't get noticed. Well, Steve's going to be here to give the list.
Yeah.
And you can say that your office sent him out.
Send them out.
Did you send him certified?
Huh?
Did you do certified this time? I'm sorry? This time. I think we decided we're not doing that. We don't have to.
Send them certified this. Nope.
Did any of them come back?
Huh?
Did any of them come back? It's undeliverable?
Actually, let's see here. Let's look at. Actually, we did send them certified this time. They are right here. They all came back.
This is the ones for this time, you sure?
Yeah.
All we can do is hope the power goes off. That's all we can do is hope the power
What
goes
do we
off.
got there? What do we do?
Declare a mistrial.
Yeah.
All we can do is hope the power goes off. This is it?
That's the list that was given to me to see. That's all the people that have to be notified.
Oops. May not be right.
I think it is. Good. I think it is.
That's why Steve's here. True. It's his call.
Is it the one from?
This is from last time.
Mr. T did call me, and he's ill. He couldn't be here. He asked me to call him when whatever happened. And I was going to call him.
What's that?
But no, I think I was over there.
Both of them, Steve?
Yeah, father. He called me. He did. His son called me. So, yeah. I said, I'll call him.
Sure. Are we all set?
John.
Please rise for the pledge of the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Since our children and young adults are returning to school tomorrow, the invocation will be dedicated to them. Soon our children will be returning to school. Bless and guide them. Let them have a good, healthy, and safe environment. Give them the knowledge, understanding, and encouragement so they do well. Help them to lay a good foundation for their future. Bless our school board members, our administrators, all the employees in various positions, our teachers, and especially our children, and our community that supports our children. Let them all have a good year. Amen.
Amen.
Get something very good.
Still working on that.
Yeah.
Still open.
Yeah, we're gonna find out something in December.
Oh, yeah? At least they're not saying October.
You know what? I've been there 16 years, and for 10 years, they've been saying they're gonna go.
Oh, I know. You hear that all the time. Of course,
you
how
know-
they might buy yours.
They're the top bidder. And we're busier now. We're in shutdown right now, but We finished production up in 7 days? So,
Number 6 is the banner guy. I thought they were coming back.
Number 6 is the who?
The banner guy. Weren't you here when those guys showed up?
No. I missed that meeting.
Was you?
no, you can call it roll.
Mayor Stafford.
Here.
Alderman Lincoln.
Here.
Alderman Sahaski.
Here.
Alderman Weston.
Here.
Alderman Cavallaro. Here. Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Woodward.
Here.
City Attorney David Hawthorne.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. The first item we have tonight, before we get into the regular agenda, is a proclamation that I believe this is the fourth Respect Week. Whereas Respect Week is an annual event initiated by the Community Task Force of Fulton, New York, and whereas children and adults alike are encouraged to respect themselves, others, school, and community, and whereas it will be observed in a community, at school, and in the home, and commences with a kickoff celebration on September 15, 2002, at G. Ray Bodley High School. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor Michael K. Stafford, do proclaim the week of September 15th through September 21st, 2002, Respect Week in the city of Fulton, New York. And be it further resolved that community residents of all ages are invited to join in the Respect Week festivities at G. Ray Bodley High School on Sunday, September 15th, 2002, from 1 till 5 p.m. And I would like to present this proclamation to Jerry Hogan Kasparek, who is the chairman of the Community Task Force and has been just doing a terrific job putting together the Respect Week this year and in the past. Thank you, Jerry.
I don't know, I think so, George Depp. George is dead now. He's been
George.
I don't know. He spoke to me when I came in, he said, he looks familiar.
Very good.
Do you want to explain what the festivities are going to entail?
Yes. First of all, you gotta see my shirt out there.
Very good.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Commercial.
Sunday, September 15th is our fourth annual Respect Week kickoff. Everything's going to be at G. Ray Bodley High School. We start at 1 o'clock with an interfaith prayer service called a community blessing. And I'd like to invite everybody here to please come. At 2:30, we're going to make a human American flag. That's why I have the flag shirt on. We're asking people from the east side of Fulton and Valley, and anyone who wants to come actually, to wear red. People on the west side to wear white, and veterans and service workers, fire and police, to come and wear blue. And everybody's family's invited to. We're hoping for 600 people, but we'll take what we get. We hope to see all of you there. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be somewhere else probably eating steak that day, but you could probably take an hour and come over and show our community that we are united. That's what it's all about. This year, it's Celebrate Unity. The schools will be talking about community, what the responsibilities of a community member is, how to be a volunteer in the community, how to care for your community, how to be respectful of your community. So I think this is important. I think it's important for the adults and your parents and the grandparents, the aunts and the uncles, to show the kids how to act and this is a good way to do it, and I think this would really be a good display of unity if we'd all come and do this flag that day. I have buttons for you, I have a newsletter for you, and I have a flyer for all of you. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Trey.
Yep, I have some little pins for you to wear. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
T-shirt in there.
See if you need them on the table, they'll drop. Thank you. Help them. Item number 1.
Resolved that the minutes of the Common Council meeting of August 20th, 2002 are hereby approved as per attached.
Move it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item.
Resolved that the mayor be authorized to sign the independent contractor agreement between the City of Fulton and Allison Merritt, the City of Fulton web page as per attached.
Motion?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next item.
Whereas the city clerk was authorized and directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held at this council meeting of September 3rd at 7 p.m. relative to a proposed local law which would amend Chapter 115, the Fulton City Code, entitled Peddling and Soliciting. Mayor Stafford will declare the public hearing open.
Anyone caring to speak on this issue, please come forward and give your name and address for the record.
My name is Frederick Stephen Martin, and I reside at 39 Halstead Drive, Fulton. My wife Sharon Martin is the owner-operator of Shannon's Hot Dogs and has been located at Bullhead Point for the last 17 years. I believe that the reason we're all gathered here tonight for this public hearing is because of the conditions listed in the contract between the City of Fulton and the operator of Don's at Bullhead Point. I would at this time like to inform the mayor and common council that my wife and myself are totally in favor of free enterprise. We both realize that there are restrictions in the contract that limits the competition to Don's, that being the main purpose of this meeting. Shannon's Hot Dogs wants to go on record that we are not afraid of competition. Maybe just the opposite is true. Is the competition afraid of Shannon's? My suggestion, therefore, is for your consideration of the following. 1, have the allocation and location of permits be put before the Common Council and Mayor, not just the Mayor. Having the decision to be made by one person can be made into a political fiasco. That would take all the responsibility away from one person. 2, have the ordinance written so that if and when the contract with Don's is either terminated or expires, it reverts back to open vending with no restrictions as to number of vendors competing with each other. History shows that the better vendors are the survivors.
I know it.
I am now open to any questions from the mayor or common council.
Fred, did you look at the proposal here for a time?
Yes, I have it right here.
Does that look like it's going to shut you out of over there?
Pardon?
You feel that's going to shut you out of over there?
Well, at this point in time, it doesn't really say we could be there. For the record, I don't know if you know it or not, we do have a permit for next year that
Yeah, I
expires
know.
the end of September of 2003.
Yeah, I know that. Which I'm glad for, but I just wanted to know if you felt this was going to shut you out.
Now, I had reservations about that.
Okay.
Like I said, we believe in free enterprise.
Yeah. Well, I think competition is the best thing for the public, pretty much. And it shows that. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be there for 17 years. But I look
Must be
at
doing something right.
But I look at the other two places and they're always loaded too, so I have a hard time understanding what's, looks like there's a lot of business there.
Like I stated, I realize you folks have to do something because of the conditions in the contract.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fred.
Anyone else care to speak on this issue?
Mr. Mayor, can we have the amendment read?
Have what?
Can you read the amendment so we know what the exact wording is?
It's 55 pages of it.
It's multi-page.
These were available to be picked up, weren't they, Joe?
It was changed, right?
These aren't attached to the regular agenda.
Well, I know they were available at your office, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think you can read section 115.8.
So it was 15-12.
That's really intended for door to door.
Oh, the one that he would be referring to would be 115.8.
115.8.
C and D. These are two new subsections to the ordinance, but they are already in place by a resolution that was passed on 5/6 of '97. And they say, the mayor is hereby authorized in the interest of public welfare to limit the issuance of the number of permits for peddling and soliciting in any particular public places, and to designate the specific locations for vendor activity in any public places. And D says the mayor is hereby authorized in the interest of public welfare to designate the specific locations for peddling and soliciting by any particular vendor.
No.
Is there anyone else who cares to speak on this issue?
I have a question. The way you just read that, Mr. Mayor, the section in there, the mayor has sole authority of...
Hold on a second. Terry, does this come through when people don't come up? Okay, because we really need it on the record, Dave, you know that.
Yeah, the number of solicitors at any given point, not just there, is that the way that states in there?
Yes.
Right.
That's citywide.
This is citywide. This whole ordinance is citywide.
That's not uncommon. Syracuse uses the lottery. They limit the number they have up there. They don't just let... the city take over vendors. In fact, most places do that.
I will say that Bullhead Point looked very nice the way it's paved from over there. I don't know, is there any idea what it costs to pave that over there?
We had done a BAN for $50,000 to do that as part of our grant, as our matching money for the grant.
So it's 50 from us and 50 from the grant?
Well, the entire project for the pier and the parking lot was, I think, over $300,000.
So approximately 50,000 of our
50,
city money?
we had 50 of it put in to purchase the asphalt for that parking lot.
That was all part of the project that was supposed to be done there?
That was the grant for the parking lot and the pier.
I just wondered because I know that the parking lot over here in the municipal mall has been in dire need of being paved, and I don't know what the plan is for that, but that generates a lot of tax dollars here, and I think it'd be a good place to put some money.
Well, yes, as I said, this was a grant from State Parks and Recreation for the pier and the parking lot there.
Okay.
Is there anyone else who cares to speak on this issue?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, members in attendance. Thomas Carroll, 208 Hannibal Street, Fulton, New York. If I'm out of order, please correct me. If it's a hearing for soliciting, peddling and soliciting, then please accept my comments as constructive criticism or purely as suggestions. I feel that if the Parks and Recreation money was allocated for this purpose, I would like a couple answers, and maybe it would speed along our conversation and bring a happy conclusion to what presently is a bone of contention and perhaps another form of, in this case, city welfare, subsidizing a city business as opposed to the private entrepreneur. When the Parks and Commission money was made available, what were the stipulations as far as food services were concerned?
This should really be part of general audience comments later. We're in the middle of
the Parks and Recreation grant was for just the pier and the parking lot. That was it.
Okay, thank you. And so when the tourist center came into being, what is the history behind that briefly? And I'll take as little time as I can also. Maybe the president of the council will have an idea?
The tourism center was originally built, I think everybody's afraid to say it was a toilet. It was a bathroom for people that are using the pavilion. Wasn't that the original?
The basic concept on the building that is called the Tourism Center, the reason that it was built was to provide restroom facilities for the people using Bullhead Point Pavilion for special events. There were special events that were occurring down there, and there were no restroom facilities. So we knew that we could not use that area without restroom facilities, and started plans to build those. And at that time, the Chamber of Commerce got involved. The Chamber of Commerce said, well, that would be a nice place to add on to this building to make a tourism center. And then another thought came into it, well, if we put an area in there that could be leased out, then we can use the money coming in from that to offset the cost of the upkeep of the building, and therefore not have to pass the added expense on to the taxpayer. So that's basically the concept.
So the bottom line is they're rather expensive bathrooms. But having said that, was it considered that perhaps some of the local clubs, I know many of them are very busy, your Rotary and different clubs, the business club from the high school, the business department of the college, if you'd had a standalone type of building, which is something I suggested a couple of years ago, so I'm not repeating myself, that they could have used it that way, not been in competition with a private entrepreneur who was paying excessive amounts of money for heat and maintenance of building. Had the council taken into consideration other alternatives that didn't have to be a moneymaker, because obviously it's not a moneymaker for the city now, maybe someday, but wouldn't it have been possible if you're on a 3-month schedule, and I see the Chamber of Commerce pulled out. Their dedication, I guess, wasn't as strong as yours, Mayor, but I appreciate you for what you're trying to do for our city. But wouldn't it have been possible on that level, and you're selling some hamburgers, some hot dogs, some refreshments, that a nice little building running for 3 months out of the year could have been a fundraiser for one of these groups, or perhaps even Mr. Freeman then could have considered it. As it stands, he had a new one. I'm not speaking for Mr. Freeman. I'm speaking as a citizen. And I'm sure the alderman from the second ward has some serious considerations that he might want to express, whether or not we need this type of activity in our community, which is already suffering for jobs. That we have this type of competition that's just going to beat a guy to his knees. They're duplicating the services that Sweet Inspiration has. If he has a car show, Don has a car show. I would have to think, and I'll close, and thank you for your time, that if they're that highly subsidized, and in checking the menu at Don's, I would have to think they're overpriced. I should think perhaps they could pass some of that goodwill the city's extended, not only to the tourists, whomever they may be, but to the citizens in the community, who many of them I know. Perhaps they could get a cheaper break on a hot dog, and then if Mr. Freeman wanted to fight that way, I think he could do a pretty good job of it. I thank you for your time. But I would like to know what role the alderman played, what discussions you had, and how did you come to your conclusion? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Tommy, not speaking for the rest of the aldermen, but from what I heard on this, number one, I think he pays $80,000.
Background here.
Well,
This has nothing to do with the hearing.
I'm not sure that we're losing money. I don't think we're losing any at all. I think we're gaining quite a lot of money.
Oh, Ron, it's a bargain in benevolence.
Well,
There's
it
no
might
other
be.
way to describe it. No, I'm sorry. I'll listen to your argument.
Well, no,
This
it's not an
discussion right now
argument.
is-
I guess there's no point in talking. You already made up your mind.
No, but
But this discussion right now has nothing to do actually with the peddling and soliciting ordinance that we're discussing at this public hearing.
You're right.
that was my final conclusion.
You're right.
I hope you will consider the peddling and soliciting,
Yeah.
and perhaps limit it to a variety of different things where the free market then could survive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that cares to speak on this?
I just want to mention, I think we forget that the main focus of this proposal as brought forward by Chief Spawn was to make some regulations based on the unfortunate situation that happened a few years ago. So he brought forward some legislation for us to consider to protect the citizens against people that come basically door to door, and we also wanted to put some regulations in place to regulate other peddlers and solicitors too. Unfortunately, the focus has been directed on Bullhead Point, but I think what we're considering is to leave it open for the mayor's discretion. And I think, you know, it says the mayor is hereby authorized. I think the mayor, obviously the mayor does not act alone. He gets a lot of input from the council. He certainly listens to the council, so I think the council would still have an awful lot of advice and suggestions as to, as always, as to what would happen. So I think that what we're trying to do is to leave this pretty much open so it is competitive, so it is
free enterprise, and that if something is not competitive in this particular instance with Bullhead Point, then we should consider it. I think originally what we had in place was going to be too limiting, and we wouldn't have that discretion. So if anyone else from the council wants to add anything to that.
I would, Mr. Mayor. The mayor alluded to this, I don't know if anybody's picked up on it, but back in '97, when I was in office at that time, we had not yet formulated a full-fledged peddling and soliciting code. So in the interim, we did do a resolution which did give the mayor the authority to stipulate where, can you hear me? So we get back there, look like I'm talking into it and it isn't working well. Still? Can you hear me now? In order to not have an overabundance of any particular vendor in a particular location, that was the reason that was done in '97. It would appear now, because of the situation at Bullhead Point and the contract, that doing this now seems suspect to some. Can't argue with it. I just wanted to state for the record that it was proposed and in actuality did exist back in 1997, just the way it's proposed tonight. So I'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like, on behalf of Alderman Cavallaro, to propose a change, add a word into section 115(6)(a)(2). A brief description of the business or activity to be conducted, as well as add the word requested location, where it will be conducted. That will be added for clarification. It is not a substantial change to the existing. Is there anyone else that cares to speak on this issue?
I guess I'm glad it addresses the ice cream man.
You glad it addresses the ice cream?
Yeah, we had, about 2 months ago, I had the ice cream man arrested because there was a guy driving a beat-up Suburban with a chest freezer strapped to the tailgate.
Yes.
So, and that's covered under this. That's a true story, Dave. He had Texas plates and nobody knew who he was, and the ice cream man got
Definitely
arrested.
hadn't registered with the city clerk.
Yep.
And that's what this
And with the ice cream
ordinance is
man, I mean,
supposed to
any
take care of.
little kid could be asked, "Do you want to go for a ride with the ice cream man?" They'd say yes, and like I say, he was from Texas, and nobody knew who he was, and he was escorted out of town. Sorry.
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple of questions. I'm a little dense, and I'm a little confused. Back 10 years ago, when we had Pop-Pops, we had a law change to allow the restaurant down there to sell those in the middle of the square. And we didn't think it was right because we had 4 vendors in that square selling hot dogs. But he was allowed to do so. And I asked about the permit. If I spend $750 for a permit, where can I sell the hot dogs? They said anywhere in the city, with the exception of Bullhead Point. And I have the videotape if anyone's interested. I asked the sitting mayor at the time, Jim Myers, and Joe Tetro, why do they have an exclusive? And they said, well, it's been like that. It's in the charter, it's in the amendment, it's in the law. Only Shannon's and Mr. Martin would have the right to have hot dogs at that point per year. Now my question is, how did he get the permit? Did he apply every year?
Yes.
Yes.
And now, was anyone else applying?
No. We had one, I don't know how many years ago.
Early
Good.
on, when Shannon first went there, I was mayor at the time when she went in, and there was some people across the road in the A-frame that ran a restaurant.
Right.
Right. And they felt slighted like everybody else does here tonight about Don's. And they said, well, why can't we have one? I said, have one. And they did. They lasted 2 or 3 weeks.
So you did issue a second permit to a second
Yeah.
person, but not right on the grounds, it was across
Well, we
the
also,
highway.
at the time, it started kind of like a hot dog war. There was people that wanted them downtown. We let them have them wherever they wanted them. And we
So-
didn't get a lot of money for a permit then.
It went up to
It was
$750.
$50.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just felt at that time if, because even though we lose sight of it, Fulton is a working town, and most people get out for 20 minutes or half an hour and with working clothes on, they can afford to buy a hot dog, they can't dress up and go in a restaurant. And the ones that were friendly to the people are still here.
Yeah, and I am no way taking sides here. I'd already
And
spoken.
I felt at the time that, I don't care if you have 100 of them, the ones that are decent and the ones that the people like will be here and the rest of them will be gone, and that's what happened.
But the code at the time said only one permit issued. That's my question.
Originally, it didn't. What happened
At
after
Bullhead-
that,
oh,
I don't
yeah,
know.
At Bullhead Point, there was only one issued, right?
Right.
And luckily or thankfully, it was the Martins that had it every year, in spite of the increases in fees. Now, what is being changed? Does he still have to apply every year for his permit?
Yes.
Yeah, he always did.
You scared me. I feel like some of these are rhetorical questions. Someone comes every year and applies besides Mr. Martin. Joe?
I don't know.
They do, right?
Yes.
So now, what is this law going to do? Allow the mayor to pick just one person, right? Of those applying. I'm not leading anywhere. This is just questions.
Or more,
Or more.
but there's no set number.
Okay, that's the present law, no set number. We can get 5 hot dog stands out there, right?
Would it be possible?
Yes.
Yes, it would be possible.
And you would allow 5 out there, right? Or 4 or 3. I'm not leading it. Don't try and figure out the answers. I'm just asking questions. I'm not getting up to anything. I'm not a snake oil salesman. Just asking a question. Can 5 people apply? Yeah. Can 5 people apply
Yes, you are a snake oil salesman.
for a permit?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And you will issue 5 if you have to, right? If you want to or you have to.
Right.
Now, what if someone wants to sell something other than hot dogs?
Yes, they can
That's
get a
good.
permit.
Okay.
We
So-
don't want to restrict it.
So that's not a problem. Now, when I applied for a permit 10 years ago, did I apply to the council or the mayor's office?
You apply to the city clerk's office.
City clerk. And who issued that? City clerk?
After
On
being,
your own?
after being approved by the
So you
chief of
had to go to
police.
the mayor even back then?
Yes.
Okay, we're getting somewhere now. These aren't hard. So the mayor can say yes to 4, 5, or 6, and you're going to restrict the food that's going to be sold? You have a choice of what's going to be out there according to this paperwork.
That's true.
The type of
Type of
vendors.
food.
Yes, the type of
Okay,
vendor.
you're not going to eliminate hot dogs.
No.
Okay, so that, you're not going to protect the gentleman who owns the tourist center by eliminating hot dogs. Anyone can come in and sell hot dogs, right?
Yes.
Right now, yeah.
Actually,
Right now.
the better answer, Al, is our spelling soliciting law is divided into 2 permits, one for food and one for non-food. I mean, it sounds to me like you're saying, can we say, we don't want you to sell hamburgers, but you can sell hot dogs? No, that's not it. It's
That's
either
not it.
it's
Okay.
food items and non-food items are the permit process.
I think Mr. Martin is concerned about the mayor
Ice
having
cream
full
food.
control over what sells or who sells. And this is concrete now, right? It's going to be the mayor makes all the decisions.
It has been since 1997.
Right, I mean, it's going to stay that way,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Good. I'm not beating up on you, I'm just asking questions. As far as the tourism center, there's an editor of a newspaper that I have yet to see him eat his words. He argued with me and said, Al, that tourism center is for road maps, directions to other businesses, and a small snack bar with some maps on it. And he said to me, I don't even think they're going to have stools to sit down. To this day, that editor has not said to me, it's a full-grown restaurant, full operational restaurant. He still hasn't answered my question. I asked him, how are we going to make a bundle of money selling cups that say Fulton, New York? Where is Fulton, New York? Somebody's going to come here to that tourist center and buy a cup that says Fulton, New York? I don't think so. So my skepticism here, not cynical, there's a difference between cynicism and skepticism. Skepticism says find out the truth before you make a decision. Sinister is someone that says it's all wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm saying is, I think, my own opinion, you snuck up on us. I was expecting a little snack bar with some maps and some cups, not a full-blown restaurant. I think that's what's got everyone upset, at least on that side of the fence. But when you talk about restricting people, I want to make sure you're not restricting other vendors to protect the guy that's there. That was my only concern. And you're not doing that, correct? All right. Now, I didn't have these papers until about 12 minutes ago. I wish I had gotten them sooner, because I would have asked more questions about some of these things in here. But I'm not going to hold you up, so apparently my question is, the mayor did it before, he does it now. I think Mr. Mountain wants all 6 of you to vote rather than just the mayor for now. I don't want to talk for him, I think that's what he was saying. But there's no chance of that. It's going to stay with the mayor, correct? Right?
Yeah, but as I said before, indirectly, the mayor, constantly is asking the council as to direction
Right, but he makes the final decision.
on a lot of things.
Right.
But Al, I think it was like that the day that Martins went in there 17 years ago.
Right, so it's the same, that hasn't changed. I just want to make sure I understand the facts. Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Is there anyone else care to speak on this issue? I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Now therefore be it resolved that the proposed local law amending Chapter 115 of the Fulton City Code entitled Peddling and Soliciting is hereby adopted in its entirety.
Do we hear a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Would you do a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Second Ward.
Yes.
Third Ward.
Yes.
Fourth Ward.
Yes.
Fifth Ward.
Yes.
Sixth Ward.
Yes.
First Ward.
No.
Motion is carried, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next item.
Whereas the city clerk was authorized and directed to advertise for a public hearing to be held at this meeting of September 3rd at 7 p.m. in the council chambers relative to a proposed zone change request submitted by Mr. Stephen Tetro for change of zone from R1 and R3 residential to C1 commercial for his property located on Route 3 Holly Drive. Mayor Stafford will declare the hearing open.
Anyone caring to speak on this issue, please come forward and state your name and address, please.
My name is Joan Martin. I live at 60 South 11th Street. I'm offering this petition in protest of changing it to a C1 commercial. It states all the reasons in here. We've discussed this several times when it was being proposed to make it a C2, and it's pretty much the same reasons why we don't want it to be a C1. It's non-commercial land. We'd like to see it stay non-commercial land. We know that the area on the corner is C2. We understand that. I was kind of amused at first and angry after when I read an editorial in the Fulton Valley News that said, aesthetically speaking, it would be better to have a burned area there than just the open land. And I just questioned when it became aesthetically pleasing to have gas pumps and beer signs and all that advertised as opposed to an open field of grass. I don't know when that changed, but I always thought aesthetically speaking, grass was kind of nice, and so were trees. I know we need business in Fulton. We all know that. We have no problem with business in Fulton. We do have a problem with the gas pumps. When there's gas sales, there are cars, when we go up the hill to get gas, there are a ton of cars there coming in, coming out, and going. We have young children. We're just concerned, that's one of our concerns, that becomes a dangerous spot right there on the corner. It's right where kids cross, going to school, from school, et cetera, and so forth. It's just a concern that it's mainly the gas pumps that are really getting us. We know we need business. We just don't think we need another gas station in Fulton. I mean, we have a ton. We have 13 in the city limits.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there a school crossing guard at that intersection?
Yes, there is.
Yes, there is, but I'll say no more. There is one there, yes.
And you realize that by the request to C1 will not allow gas pumps onto that property?
Right, it'll be on the corner as opposed, we've already had the discussion of it being just the, in and out, well, I can't remember the words. Going in and going out.
From what Burn Dairy representatives have told me, is the reason that they wanted that property was to move the exit farther north to get it farther away from the intersection to make it safer.
I do understand that.
Okay.
And we did cover that before, and it's just still safer, but not safe, in my opinion. It might be safer than if we didn't have it.
Well, it's safer than where it's going to be under the existing plan.
Right. And I'd have to avoid the whole corner completely. It would have to be, I'd have to reroute my kids completely, because I just don't, with that extra piece, I don't think it's going to be any safer. And honestly, if Burn Dairy should go out, that's now commercial property and anything can go in, and that's where we're nervous about that too. What if? We're also very sure that, well, not very sure, but it's been talked about that the Burn Dairy downtown here that services Towpath Towers will probably go out if they have this new one with the gas pumps, et cetera, and that leaves people in Towpath Tower without someplace to shop close by. I just don't see it as being the best solution for Fulton. I think there's other opportunities we have on that corner. And I know it's commercial, and I understand that, but I just think there's better opportunities we have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else care to speak on this?
Dave Halstead, 70 South 11th Street. I think I've expressed my concerns of discontent of what is trying to be done back there. It was even added to more so about 2 weeks ago when I come home one night and I see surveyor stakes up surveying the area of the C1, proposed C1 in the R1 and R3 districts, as well as the area that is C2 now. And myself and a couple of other neighbors took a look at this, and it's over 2 acres, nearly 2.5 acres for a gas station. I think that's a little exuberant and bad use, regardless of how it's used for a parcel of property. The second thing is to go along with Mrs. Martin said about the children in the area. There are many children from Pathfinder, Holly Gardens, that go through that corner. One of the main concerns is the children from Pathfinder Courts have no sidewalks, have not had sidewalks. It was a hazard when just the convenience store was there years ago. Now, if you put a convenience store in there with gas pumps and enhance traffic even more, it's going to become more of a hazard. Mr. Loomis, who couldn't be here tonight, as far as I know, his wife is not feeling well, was a crossing guard at that corner for like 5 years. He expressed his concern about being able to control kids in general without a lot of traffic, and that he had a very difficult time controlling them. They don't listen. As kids will be kids. With enhanced traffic pulling in and out of there onto that main drag, I don't think it will enhance the area at all. To go back onto the surveyor stakes that I saw when I came home, it looks like it's a done deal. I don't know if money's changed hands, it's a done deal, but it's been surveyed as one solid piece of property according to the surveyor stakes. That's how we know the area is immense. We are very concerned about the gas pumps due to odor.
Well, the gas pumps have nothing to do
I
with this
understand.
public
I
hearing tonight.
understand.
This public hearing tonight is only on the Tetro property from R1, R3 to C1.
That's fine. Also, if we go on that road, then we just soon, if it's going to encroach upon our properties, we would just as soon it didn't encroach any more than what's already been done. I don't know how many times and how many people have got to sit here and talk to you people and tell you that we don't want it any closer to our homes than it's already going to be, even though we didn't want it. The property values are going to depreciate over there with that in our backyard. There's no question of that. The smell is going to be bad. Green area is a good thing, and I've got to agree with Mrs. Martin. It will enhance the neighborhood a whole lot more than a driveway sticking out through there and then be able to put a building or anything anywhere they want, and us not knowing in the future what's going to be done there. We attended the last Planning Commission meeting and give them some of our input and our concerns. As of today, to our knowledge, no plan is intact for that area, nor has Burn Dairy or anyone else involved in this deal come to the neighbors there and tried to talk to us to explain things more to us. No one has come near us to try to help us, to give us more understanding. I just feel it's all in bad judgment. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
My name is Lee Doty, 72 East 11th Street. I just purchased this property a week ago, and it seems that I've walked into a hornet's nest. I grew up in the gas business, and I know you don't want to go into that part of it as far as the gas pumps and all that, but I see what they can do.
Right, well,
I've grown up with it.
Yeah, but this property we're talking about is not going to have gas pumps on it. This is...
Right, but I am going to be downwind of the gas pumps, is what I'm saying. All right, we'll let that part go. I was told that there was registered letters sent out to all the people who were involved in this area, and being a new owner there, I received no letter, and I would appreciate one.
When did you close?
I closed last Wednesday.
It takes several weeks for the real property transfer report to come from the county clerks back to our assessor. By law, we're obligated to notify the owner of record, which you are not the owner of record yet as far as the city's concerned, because we haven't been notified by the county clerk yet.
When you are notified, though, I will be getting one.
You will be on the list in the future, because the list is promulgated from the city assessor, and the city assessor can only go by what the county clerk tells her as far as who owns the property, because if the tax bills were coming out today, you wouldn't get it, the old owner would.
Taxes, okay, there's another good question. I think I'm paying some of the highest taxes in the city of Fulton over there. That neighborhood has come a long way in the last 10 years. It used to be fairly run down, and it's been built up. All the houses over there are being redone. They're paying some of the highest taxes in the city of Fulton over there. And I walked into this not knowing what was going on. And I just feel that something should be done as far as more information being brought out on this. We're all kind of in the dark, actually, over there. I mean, we don't know what's going in. You can't say for sure what it's going to be, if anything. I'm a little upset. I spent a lot of money for a house over there. And I end up finding out that this is going to be in my backyard. My property is bordering this area. It's right in the center of where you're talking. And I have no information on it whatsoever about what's going on. And I just feel before anything is done, I feel that I should be notified somehow on what's going on. And I can understand why these people are upset. I've lived in Fulton my whole life. Ed Sahaski, I've lived in the second ward over there for 20 years. And now I've moved over on that side. I've moved out of the city for a couple of years, and now I'm back in. I come back into Fulton because I like the city of Fulton. But I don't like what's going on right now. This is really, it really upsets me. I'm getting close to retirement time, and I spent my life savings to buy this house because it was a nice neighborhood. And now I'm going to have possible lights shining in my bedroom windows all night. And like they say, neon signs, possible gas pumps, downwind of them. I just feel that I want people to think, and everybody should really step back and take a look at the number of convenience stores and gas stations and anything of that sort that are in that area alone over there, within a mile radius around there. I don't feel we need another one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I do agree with you, Mr. Was it Doty? In regards to the fact that maybe it should have been, more information should have been available to the neighbors by the Burn Dairy developers or the people that were here at that first meeting. Unfortunately, that, didn't happen. As someone coming into a neighborhood, a business, you would think that they would be out going door to door, letting people know what is going on. I think that has to happen more as development prospers here in the city of Fulton. Unfortunately, again, that didn't happen, right. And I apologize for that not happening.
What I'm getting at mainly is for the distance that neighborhood has come in the last 10 years, being brought up to standards as far as the city could be, all the houses being redone, remodeled, new ones built. I mean, it's a beautiful part of the city now. And I can remember when I was a kid that it was really run down through there and everything. And now these people have done all this, and they're going to throw something like this in their backyard, and it's going to bring it all right back down.
Your Honor, what's the estimated project cost of the Burn Dairy development down there?
I'm not sure, dollar-wise. I really don't have that figure. They haven't given me that figure by any sense of imagination. I would have to assume that it's an expensive proposition to put up a building.
Right, but say it was, we'll say, $750,000 development. Okay, what would that be in tax revenue, in possible
$100,000.
shortfalls?
$100,000. Our rate's what, $14.29 per thousand, something like that, which is roughly 1/7. So use round numbers, it'd be 100,000 on 700,000.
Right.
Okay.
The city of Fulton is facing shortfalls in a couple of our budgets this year, one being sales tax revenue. And I think my position on this has changed somewhat in the fact that I think the neighbors and the developers have to meet halfway. And on this, I would agree with Mr. Halstead that, he didn't want the gas pumps on that parcel of land that we're having a public hearing on tonight. On the other hand, though, they are changing it to a C1, And I believe that that's progress, joint progress between the neighbors and the developers, set developers over there. So I would be in favor of changing the zone from R3?
R1 and R3.
To a C1 so that the development could occur. I think it's important because we could be facing a major tax increase here by the end of the year. So anything that looks and projects good for budgetary reasons, I would be in favor of supporting.
I understand, not to interrupt, but I forgot a couple of things that I wanted to say. Two of them being the rezoning of the property over there, and Mr. Doty being one of the people that wasn't contacted. Also, Robert Hall and Mr. Guy Sauls are within 100 foot. They were not contacted this time either, but they were last time. I don't know why, but they were not contacted. I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Steve, can you speak to that?
Without looking at the list, we use exactly the same list, and as I understand it, we added to that list. Take anything off, so where would that list be, Joe? We'd have to get the list down there.
Is it the list that Joe has?
Is it the list that Joe has?
And then we'd have to check the tax maps to see what, exactly how many feet those properties are. Well, I guess let me ask it this way. Is it your opinion that you notified everybody you were required, or that the list you gave to the city clerk included everybody that was required? Yes. Joe, is it your opinion that everybody on that list was sent a notice?
Yes.
And I think that since we have city employees who are responsible for this decision, claiming that it was done correctly, I think we could stand by that. And if it turns out later that there were some inconsistencies, then it'll be up to the individuals who claim they are agreed by this to do something about it.
Could I ask a question? What is the process for people to be notified of a public hearing? Does the city clerk and the zoning officer do it together?
The zoning officer provides a list of the properties involved, and the city clerk, his office sends out the notices.
Wouldn't it be better to just have maybe, and we could bring this up at a different time, to have one department do it to make sure that there's clarity in who's getting and who's not getting letters?
You're right, that it's something that that can be brought up at a later time to discuss.
Your Honor, could I ask our attorney something? The reason behind notifying people is so they get an opportunity to speak at the public hearing, right?
Correct.
Well, Mr. Doherty didn't get notified, but he's here.
And Corey, I was going to point that out earlier.
And the other person that David talked about didn't get notified, but they knew about the hearing because they told him he didn't get notified.
Exactly.
So I think this, I'm not a lawyer, but the spirit of the law is to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak their mind on it. So whether you got a letter or your neighbor told you, or, I mean if you're here, you knew about it. So you had that opportunity to, you understand what I'm saying?
I knew none of this was going on until I'd already put this out.
Well, that may be so. Well, yeah, but let me tell you something. It's also been in the local newspapers each time that there's been a zone change, an advertisement for a public hearing. Yeah, well, yeah, but I don't think our newspapers are limited to the corporate limits of the city. I think they go to Volney and Granby, and, you know, we get the...
should advise them that too. But
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that cares to speak on this issue? Anyone on the council?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to say a few words. If you recall, when we were looking to change this to a C2, I voted against it. And since that time, it appears that they could go ahead with this gas station anyway. My concern now is and I know, Ms. Martin, you may not feel that way, with regards to the added safety. And I really believe that with site plan, if this went to a C1, that could be more readily assured, especially with the cramped space on that corner. If we don't get two things we would get if we go C1, hopefully the added safety, because it would give it a larger area for traffic to egress and ingress. And even more importantly, the discussion about the within the site plan review, doing the berm or the buffer zone, berm, fence, trees, any combination of or all. I feel that that's probably going to be, if anything, the one thing that's going to make this project look better for you folks. With that empty lot, and you've got that gas station and the store right there, kids could be walking through your backyard. And I'm really concerned about the safety issue without having that added piece of property there. So I guess in this instance, I'm feeling that I need to consider the overall plan in terms of what the Planning Commission could do through site plan. And I know you were there, Dave. None of you have experienced this, but you will when this comes forward, and you should be there. And when you talk about sidewalks, that's a possibility, okay? The lights, that's a possibility. There's fixes for that. So I strongly urge you to look at this in a more positive way. If this goes forward tonight, to please be at the site plan review when that comes due.
I have a question.
Sure.
We're speaking as if this is a done deal, that Bird Dairy is going in there, whether or not we make that a C1 or not.
That is affirmative.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
That's affirmative. The only thing this was going to do was move the driveway down and make it safer.
That's what I'm asking. So the Bird Dairy is going in.
Burn Dairy is there.
Gas pumps and all.
They've got that.
That's the one to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought you were aware of that, but that's why I was speaking to this C1 issue. Yeah,
Sound like it's a done deal.
it's a done deal.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mike, would it be impossible for them to have their project engineer or architect draw graphs so they can present each homeowner over there with their options?
They will do that, but they're not going to draw complete drawings until they find out what property they have to work with. So they're waiting for the outcome of this hearing to determine where their driveways are going to be.
It's sort of tough for anybody to make a decision without them viewing the options that they have as far as their layout.
Well, and I understand that, but they said
You're
that,
talking driveways, curving, everything.
they said the cost, they told me that because I had suggested this to them, and they told me that the cost of having two separate sets of drawings done, one without the property, one with the property, would have added a considerable amount to the project, and they didn't really want to do that.
This is a major operation. Money shouldn't be an issue because there's so much money involved already. I mean, they're just talking about drawing up a couple graphs. They gotta have a layout.
Well,
For anybody to make a decision, whether it's
they have,
C1 or C2.
they have a layout of where the building will go on the C2 lot. Yes, they have that. The only thing that was going to change was the driveway.
What about the buffers and all that? I mean, couldn't they just take up time to do a drawing on
Well, they could if they knew they were going to get the property. But without the property,
It might be a lot easier for these people to see what they're getting, is what I'm saying.
that's right. But that's why, as Alderman Cavallaro said, this is addressed at site plan review. And the Planning Commission is very adamant about green space, about lighting that does not offend the neighbors, about buffering. There was one, I know the one neighbor was concerned about kids cutting across the property. And they intend, I believe, to take care of that with a fence. And then with screening of trees and the like.
I just want to say, before you guys make a decision, it would only be fair if these people have their opportunity. They have a vision of what's going to be in their front yard.
We're supposed to be making a
I mean, they gotta be titled for that.
No, I understand this. I understand this, and that would be,
Somebody's gonna walk out of here unhappy tonight, and it'd be a lot easier for you guys if you had a plan, so they could know what's going on. Because right now, they don't, they're in the dark.
okay.
Like I said earlier, when I spoke, there should have been better communication from the start of this whole process, from the Burn Dairy representatives right down to the constituents in that area. There should have been.
It's not too late to get it.
I'm Marjorie Kewen, 77 East 11th Street. I'm very against this, and I'll tell you why. The minute you change this, it doesn't mean that there's just going to be a driveway there. They could be a beer joint or anything there. It doesn't make one bit of difference what you say. And we don't want a beer joint. We don't really want the gas station. And not one of you live any place near it. Even you.
Well, I remember somebody coming by my house for about an hour and a half, asking how would I feel if I fell across the street from the grocery store, and I pointed at Marbitos and said, how do you think?
How would you like a gas station down there at Marbitos?
I think it's eventually coming. I can't speak for Tom, but you saw what happened over at Strupler's. It wouldn't surprise me.
And I can't understand another thing, how you can go against all us and vote with these people.
I haven't voted yet.
I know, but you did before.
Well, if you want to, actually,
Other
if you
people
want to
can't
get into it, I
understand it
can
either.
say a couple things that'll really make some people upset. And I'll start off with one thing in particular, and that is, Mr. Halstead, you're talking about the safety of the kids crossing the street, and I wrote this down. When this came up the first time, I watched the tape of the meeting. I watched it 11 times to make sure I got it right. But you said that you were concerned about kids crossing the street and increased traffic. But when the guy from Burn Dairy was here, you asked him, how many feet of frontage do you need to have safe ingress egress? He said 150 feet. You asked, how many feet do you have on Emery Street? He said 174 feet. And the only reason I know this is because I watched it so many times, just to make sure I heard it right. And after that, you said, if you got 174 feet on Emery Street, why don't you turn it around and face it that way? So is the concern really with the safety, or is it with the sale of the property? That's, I guess, a question that I have.
That would enhance the safety because you only got traffic on one side of one street. It's a side street, not a main entity.
I would think that if I was going to have a lot of traffic on the corner, I'd rather have it be on the main drag, not the side street.
It won't be just on the main drag or coming in off both streets.
Wouldn't you want more traffic on the highway or Emery Street? Which would you rather?
It's going to create both.
But you suggested that it be only on Emery, not on the highway as well.
It's going to draw traffic, there's no doubt about that. We will have
Traffic
to
is going to
address
get
that through site plan.
much greater.
And our discussion now is not about the C2, it's about the C1.
I understand that. But by allowing the C1, it will allow more of the traffic to be on Holly Drive.
I'm surprised you show all the concern now because you haven't in the past.
Glad you feel that way.
I will.
Why don't you take my spot?
I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll have that hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Read the
Now
resolution.
therefore be it resolved that the proposed zone change submitted by Mr. Stephen Tetro for a change of zone from R1 and R3 residential to C1 commercial for his property located on Route 3 Holly Drive is hereby approved.
Do roll call, Your
Roll
Honor.
call, please.
Second ward,
Yes.
third ward,
Yes.
fourth ward,
Yes.
fifth ward,
No.
sixth ward,
Yes.
first ward.
Yes.
Motion is carried, Your Honor.
Thank you. Next item.
Resolved that the request to change the screening device limitations from 4 feet in front yards and 6 feet inside and rear yards to 6 feet and 8 feet, 177-26C is hereby referred to the Planning Commission.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next item.
Resolved that the mayor be authorized to sign the City Pride Promotions Agreement, which promotes community pride and image. Said agreement is attached to this resolution.
Wait. Wasn't this guy supposed to come back?
Right, but I got in touch with him and said I'd gone to the chamber was in favor. They'd gone through the plan.
But I thought he was going to come back and make a presentation to everybody instead of just...
Well, I have the photograph of what the banner program will look like. They're going to take over the banner program.
Well, what committee was
They
that?
do
That
this.
was planning
This is...
or legislative? What planning?
It was planning. It was planning.
So that's
Planning and development.
me, Joe, and Ed. So I want to make sure that Bob and John and Ron know what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah, the mayor spoke to me today.
And I talked to John about it.
He did say he was coming back, didn't he?
Yes, but I talked to him and told him that I thought I could, since it went through the chamber with no problem.
Okay.
This is at no cost to the city.
I know.
They will take care of the banners, they're putting the banners up.
No, I don't have a problem with it. I just wanted to make sure that the other three knew.
At no cost to the city. It'll take some of the stress off the traffic department having to try to maintain them.
And they're going to put them up in here now.
That's it.
I looked at this and I thought it looked very favorable. Are they, obviously they're doing this in other areas.
Yes. Yes, they have, they've only been, they broke off from another company just a short time ago, this group. They're out of Rochester and have been doing banners for a considerable amount of time under another name. And they just
Is this in
broke away.
addition to the banners that we already have?
No, this will replace the banners.
We replace those.
This is a quality item.
And these are also year-round.
And they'll be up year-round, and they will
Like
take
really
care of the
heavy
maintenance on them.
You'll take care of the sponsorships?
Take care of the installation.
Everything.
They will go around and solicit the sponsors. And again, as I said, it's at no cost to the city, where right now the banner program is a cost to the city.
Right.
The only thing we did discuss, Mayor, and so it doesn't fall between the cracks when they put these things up, since these are going to be seasonal, they were going to mount them or be able to turn them when we put our Christmas decorations up,
Yeah, they can flip them to the other side of the pole.
so we can flip them to the other side or something of that nature.
Yes. And they will go out and do the negotiations with the utility companies too for this, so.
Did they make the initial contact with us?
Yes, they did.
got okay.
Does anyone have any further questions? Entertain a motion?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Does anyone in the audience have any business to bring before the council?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dave Mankiewicz. I live at 460 West First Street. And I want to talk for a minute about the house that's nearby, but it's not the one you all think I'm going to talk about. It's at the other one. There's a house at 474 West First Street, which has torn off, the owner voluntarily tore off the roof, tore off half the second floor, and has let it sit there since they've done that, and it's sat like that for over a year. I understand that the building permit on this, which was issued a year ago, July 19th, it's since expired. Nothing's happened, and nothing seems to be happening with the property.
Steve, can you tell us what the status of that is?
Well, there's been some activity on, the owner of the property did get a permit a year ago. He started carrying it off. Anybody can guess what may have happened there. Maybe it just got overinvolved.
$42,000 a year.
My understanding is recently been employed in Syracuse.
But since the building permit has expired, what action has the city taken?
Yeah, we contacted a professional engineer about a year ago, and the question to him was, is a building without a roof inherently structurally unsound? And he said, no, it may not be. So I've talked to Tony Gree about this. I think Tony may have mentioned this with our city attorney. We're just at a point now waiting for him to come in and get another permit. If he does get another permit, dangerous building. We can't get an engineer to say it's a dangerous building. It's certainly an eyesore. But what it really is a vacant building. And according to the New York State Building Code, a vacant building has to be basically secured from unauthorized entry. It doesn't really deal with the aesthetics of it. So it's a little bit of another one.
Steve, doesn't it have to have a roof? Doesn't it have to have a roof? Building code says you don't have to have a roof.
We need board buildings up and only board the first floor, assuming that it's not going to be on the second floor.
It's not.
I think we need to do something because it's a terrible eyesore for the whole community. You know, people constantly talk to me about it. I don't know what we have to do, but we got to do something.
Now, we
Take some kind of action.
And just as follow-up to that, about a week ago, we did sign a notice of order, and we are assuming ourselves, although we're not experts, that we listed a long list of things that are wrong, that we think are wrong, that he hasn't responded to that yet.
So he has been cited? Okay.
Probably about a week ago.
That's what I was wanting to hear. So if he does not respond, then we will send that on to court. Okay, so the paperwork has started to get it remedied. We had to wait until the building permit had expired, but after that, they started that to get him into court, if that's what's
I would
required.
appreciate if the city would pursue this because, first of all, I'm sitting across the street from a house that's vacant. There's another house next to it that has a revolving door of tenants going in and out. The last one just got arrested and made the front page of the Post Standard. I mean, our neighborhood is troubled by 3 or 4 troubled properties. The rest of it is actually quite good. And that there is a real chance to bring this back. But we need to focus in on a couple of these problem areas. The city's done a great job. I got to give you credit. The school and behind us on Oak Street is going to get fixed. You've fixed up the building at the other side of Oak Street. That house is back and reoccupied. That was vacant for a year. It's a great job. There's people who live directly across the street from this who, with the city's program and assistance, completely fixed up their house. They did a beautiful job and brought a young family into our neighborhood. So there's some things going in the right direction. And this one is pulling us back in the
Now we
wrong
just
way.
need to get the rest of them headed that way.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Is there anyone else that has any business to bring before the council? Anyone on the council?
Yes, Mayor. This is Alderman Weston started this last meeting, so I'm going to continue with it.
Good.
Update on a lot of work going on in the Second Ward, especially the Oak Street project. The city approximately received $600,000 for the rehab for the Oak Street School. This is going to house about 12 units. The CDA, Community Development Agency, purchased the school from the school district for $20,000. The plans call for 8 one-bedroom apartments and 4 two-bedroom apartments. This supposedly should be completed by next summer, the middle of the summer, at the end of the summer. Okay? It will be a senior apartment housing. Basically, it's great to see an old building being rehabbed instead of being torn down. There's a lot of memories there, and it certainly will be dressing up the neighborhood. A lot of sidewalks being put in around the area. West 3rd Street is being redeveloped, new sidewalks, new roads. I believe water lines were put in, sewer lines were put in there. So it's going great. It's going great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else down at this end?
All set.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'd like to say something. Being that there are new homes that are going to be constructed over on West 7th Street North, the owner of one that's being built right now would like off-street parking on one side of the street. So what would we have to do to accommodate that?
Off-street parking.
Yeah, parking on one side of the street. There's no parking on West 7th Street North. Okay.
I think we probably need to have a traffic study done by our traffic department, since that is a bus route.
Right.
That may be a problem, but you're requesting a traffic study to allow parking on the west side of West 7th Street?
Well, it would probably be best to have it on the west side, yeah.
All right. We'll do a work order up and get that done.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No.
Entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session.
I'll offer.
Pending litigation. No, I'm not going to do it by resolution. I'm going to do it by work order.
Did we vote on that?